She is active in her church and has various networks of friends that she has built up over the course of her life, including the BACC Gynecological Cancer Support Group. She considers herself a survivor who is living the best life she can now, recognizing that she is one diagnosis away from a recurrence or serious complication from ovarian cancer. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you to Erna Arnesen.
Four years ago, in the summer of 2017, I worked in a job that I enjoyed, a late stage career role that I had gotten, and it was in a long career in high tech in Silicon Valley. I've been generally in good health. I was active both at work and in my personal life. I even embarked on a diet the prior 2 years, and I had lost 45 pounds. I had long thought I had won the health lottery. Then I started having pain in my side. It was in my right side, and I thought it was a gastric flare-up, like part of the diverticulitis I had had in the past. So I was shocked a few hours later after a CT scan when I was told without any preamble that I had advanced ovarian cancer. My husband's eyes teared up immediately. I sat in shock and denial, knowing that my life would forever be different. A week later, I went through a complete hysterectomy and debulking surgery. The main tumor was a tennis ball size on my right ovary, which had started in the fallopian tube. It was stage 3 high-grade serous carcinoma, very common for a lot of us with ovarian cancer. It had spread to the abdominal lymph nodes and the peritoneum up against my lungs and my colon. My CA-125 was 1667 pre-surgery and 200 post-surgery. That meant that I would have chemo, and I was told it would be every 3 weeks by IV. There was no discussion, and I was told that it was a 25-year proven standard. That was basically what was going to happen. Meanwhile, during this period of 6 weeks recovery, pre-chemo, I had a series of conversations with friends, and one of my friends, a college friend, had strongly encouraged me, in fact, called me twice and told me I had to talk to her sister, Dr. Laura Esserman, a breast cancer surgeon at UCSF. She reviewed my pathology report as a favor to her sister, and she quickly referred me to another gynonc who could see me, and appointment was set up very promptly. She told me there are always options. 2 opinions are necessary, she said. Second opinions must be. She recommended that I look at a research center as a good place for this. With that, she recommended me to a gynonc who was someone she had worked with closely as a colleague. And this doctor suggested that I do intraperitoneal chemo, or IP chemo as it's called. He said I was a suitable candidate, I was the right age, health factors were good, and I had an overall good attitude. And I understand that meant that I was generally, interested in some other treatment. I was had a good support system and had a general willingness to accept the fact that there would probably be more pain and effort involved. I did have some trepidation, and I prayed and consulted with my family, and I knew I needed to do whatever I could to beat the 30% odds of long-term survival. IP was generally regarded as about a 10% higher rate of efficacy than the normal IV chemo. Well, the next 6 months were extremely difficult. I had never cried more in my life. I cried every day. I had a dozen sessions of long, extended 12-hour chemo infusions in both ports. I had quite a bit of abdominal pain and the burning sensation, as well as neuropathy in my feet and my hands, plus the usual nausea and constipation that we get. I resorted to acupuncture, medical massage, and cannabis. They gave me some relief, although not as much as I wanted. The doctor by this time became a cheerleader, and he told me I was ahead if I could just get through a few treatments. Well, as we got further along, he started to call me a poster child for IP, and he even said that my husband should drag me to the hospital if he needed for the last 2 treatments because I was struggling so hard to get myself into the car to go. They say that ovarian cancer is a silent killer, but most of us have heard whispers on the journey. Mine was a few tests earlier in the year by my gynecologist. A few errant cells, she said, she thought might be precancerous. I was thinking like polyps that you would do during colonoscopy you hear about. There was usually not going to be a major problem if they took them out right away. And I didn't get offered an ultrasound, a CT scan, or a 125, and I didn't know enough to ask for them. I didn't even connect the dots later when I was diagnosed with advanced cancer that a few simple tests that might have been a signal from those earlier errant cells could have caught this cancer months earlier. And in fact, my gynecologist who had retired right after that apologized, saying that she had never suspected ovarian cancer. Fast forward to 3.5 years now later, I am considered NED, no evidence of disease. I have a CA-125 of between 3 and 5. I have some neuropathy in one of my feet still. I can still play tennis, but it's not like what it was before. And I do have some other side effects like fatigue and gastric challenges that continue. I was not put on a PARP inhibitor as I am BRCA negative, and I was not approved because at that time it wasn't considered effective for people like me. Soon after the diagnosis, my friends and family rose up to help me. A tennis group set up a meal train. My network of colleagues and friends came to visit. A group of Apple and tennis friends came to every chemo, and they brought lunches. Also, I got invited to the Teal Run in September of that year, and I could barely walk, but I made it over to the booth where I met for the first time and was introduced to some folks at BACC, the Bay Area Cancer Connection. It was really a godsend to me. I learned about Coffee Connections, a support group at Cafe Coupa, where I could attend without stress and fear at a coffee shop. I like coffee, and I like coffee shops where I sat with other ovarian cancer patients and heard firsthand what they were going through, and I could ask questions and talk in a non-threatening environment. I also got help with some other healing efforts from BACC, the makeup class, the healing touch class, and recommendations throughout my whole treatment. After treatment was done, BACC became a place where I could learn. I attended the annual conferences and the annual ovarian cancer lunches. I met with other survivors, and I joined the gynecological cancer support group. With COVID, we went to online Zoom sessions that have been more frequent than the regular monthly meetings, and they have become even more powerful to me. It's where I'm learning so much about how we can care for each other. Over these last few years, I've had calls and meetings with folks advising me as I was going through ovarian cancer, usually fellow travelers on the road, often ahead of me in terms of the journey. In many cases, this cohort has passed away, unfortunately, including Vicki Michaelis, who helped with Coffee Connections, and several others that I knew well. Through this sadness, I started to understand that we can be a big part of the care team for each other to help and encourage like no one else can. I want to thank BACC for all it has given me in many aspects of my journey. I do live with fear and doubt many days, thinking about a recurrence that is maybe right around the corner. My gynonc says that I am now one of the lucky few at this point. I may or I may not be. I have learned to appreciate each day and in my activity differently. I try to reduce stress. I stay connected to my friends and family, and I work on my self-care. My lessons learned are these 4. First, focus on mortality. It's okay, it's healthy. Talking about dying is not something to avoid. My faith can and does help me overcome the fear of dying of cancer. I also accept, though, the possibility of a recurrence. Second, my family and friends, including BACC, are a big part of the life I have, and I treasure them with all my heart. Third, I can be optimistic and live each day in light of my cancer. I'm living with cancer. I'm not dying of it. Optimism and positive energy reduce stress for me. And finally, I can give back as I'm able. I can help and be helped by other cancer patients and survivors. I can be vocal and hopefully not annoying. This is how I am living with cancer.
Given the personal nature of the questions one might have about Erna's story, if you would like to connect with Erna directly, we ask that you email our helpline at info@bayareacancer.org, and we will share your information with Erna so she can reach out to you directly. Thank you.